Live to Canberra now. Leader of the government in the Senate, Mathias Cormann, joins me. Thank you so much for your time. When will all refugees be transferred off Manus and Nauru to the US, New Zealand or elsewhere?
Well, obviously, updates on the progress of our resettlement arrangements are a matter for the Minister for Home Affairs, Peter Dutton. He provided an update again yesterday during his press conference with the Prime Minister about how our resettlement arrangements with the United States are progressing. And, no doubt, those resettlement arrangements with the US are obviously well understood. They've been very successful, except that they were being undermined in more recent times by Labor's medevac laws, which had a very bad effect all around.
So a firmer date, is that part of the secret deal you did with Jacqui Lambie?
There is no secret deal. Obviously, we have been engaging constructively and in good faith with Senator Lambie for some time. We provided very detailed briefings on our border protection policies, on our resettlement arrangements. We provided classified briefings, and at the end of all of this, clearly, she was satisfied that the repeal of the medivac laws was warranted and appropriate, but she was also satisfied with the direction the government was heading when it comes to protecting our borders and when it comes to progressing resettlement arrangements in relation to Nauru and Manus Island.
If there's no deal, why was a letter of assurance required from the Prime Minister?
Well, you're making all sorts of assertions. Let me just say
there was
again,
a letter.
We have not.
Was there not?
Well, we have not made any. We have provided detailed information. What form that information took. That is obviously quite irrelevant to the core question that you're asking, whether or not there was a deal. There was no agreement to change policy in relation to anything. We have not agreed to change policy on border protection or on resettlement arrangements or on anything else in return for a vote in favour of our medivac repeal bill. Obviously, and as we've said as a matter of public record for some time, we did provide extensive information and extensive reassurance around the policy agenda that the government is pursuing in this space when it comes to protecting our borders and when it comes to pursuing resettlement arrangements, and that is entirely appropriate, and that is not unusual, incidentally.
The problem is, Minister, Jacqui Lambie said in the chamber yesterday, and I quote, "I put a proposal to the government to work with me to secure my support for the passage of the repeal of medivac," end quote. That sounds like a deal.
No, it doesn't, actually. Of course she has been putting things to us, and in return we provided information about what we were already doing. We provided information about our policies in some detail. We provided classified briefings, including classified briefings from the commander of our Operation Sovereign Borders in relation to all relevant aspects. And at the end of those briefings, at the end of providing all of that information about our existing policies, the policies that we're committed to continue to pursue. And as the Prime Minister said very clearly yesterday, the only undertaking that we gave is that we would continue to implement our policies when it comes to border protection and resettlement arrangements, and that is all there is to it.
Okay, so if it's already stated policy and you're not changing any of your policies around this particular legislation, why can't you say so? How would it be a breach of national security?
But hang on, I've told you precisely what we've done. I've told you precisely what we've done. We are continuing to implement our policies on border protection and on resettlement arrangements unchanged, but Senator Lambie was provided classified briefings.
Minister, she says she puts a proposal to the government though, so Jacqui Lambie either thinks she's got a deal, you're either dudding her or you're using very clever sophistry.
No, I completely reject that proposition. We've been engaging with Senator Lambie in good faith, openly and transparently. But classified briefings are that, classified briefings. They're not things that you dissect in the national media. That is the whole purpose. We are focused on protecting our national security. Now, it might well be that you think that we should, reveal everything and anything at the top secret level and undermine our national security. That might be your preference, but that is not something that a responsible government government would do, and we're very appreciative of the fact that Senator Lambie has respected the classified nature of the detailed briefings that she has obtained.
How can we believe you, Senator, when there was a couple of months ago, the Coalition passed its tax cuts with the help of Jacqui Lambie. At that time you said no deals, no horse trading, and then a couple of months later the government, apropos of nothing, forgives a $150 million housing debt for Tasmania.
Well, I think that you're misrepresenting what was said at the time. What I said clearly at the time, which was absolutely the truth, was that we had committed to Senator Lambie to work with her in relation to this issue, which she had raised in a very high-profile manner in the context of that debate. There wasn't a direct quid pro quo, and Senator Lambie was very clear herself on the public record in the Senate at the time that she had been persuaded of the merits of the personal income tax cut legislation. But we said also publicly at the time that over the subsequent 6 to 8 weeks or thereabouts, I think was what we said at the time, that we would work with her in good faith through that issue. That is what we did, and subsequently relevant announcements were made.
If this was a union, you'd be calling it a bribe though, wouldn't you?
I completely disagree. I mean, you know, hang on. So we've just passed the medevac repeal legislation, which strengthens our national security, which finally removes a terrible decision that was pushed through by the Labor Party and the Greens in the last Parliament, and we did so on the basis of continuing to implement our border protection policies unchanged.
I'm not casting any judgment on the merits or otherwise of medevac, but
well, yes,
is this
you are.
what? Is
yes,
it,
you
no,
are.
I'm not. No, I'm not. Is this what we can expect from this government for the rest of the term? You're saying the means justifies the ends.
No. Well, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. What I would say is that as a government, we have a responsibility to the Australian people to progress our agenda through the Parliament. The government doesn't have a majority in the Senate, and so of course we've got to engage with non-government senators to achieve a consensus in relation to our agenda. Now, on occasions, that means that we've got to sit down with crossbench senators, or indeed with Labor or Green senators, and explore where the opportunities are for policy consensus. I mean, that is us doing our job.
Minister, do you accept, or do you think this government has at least a PR problem with appearing to keep things secret when it's not necessary, blocking information from the public?
Well, look, I leave the commentary to you. That is not my view. We are absolutely open and transparent, but obviously we will not be releasing information that would put the safety and security of Australians at risk, or that would undermine our strong border protection arrangements, or indeed the success of our resettlement arrangements into the future. I mean, we are acting in the public interest in making sure that we protect classified information as governments of both persuasions do.
Who knows about the arrangements, though? You, the Prime Minister, Peter Dutton, and that's it?
What do you mean when you say about the arrangements? The only arrangement there is with Senator Lambie is an undertaking that we will continue to implement our policies unchanged.
Well, I would argue that transparency is a fundamental tenet of democracy. Where do you draw the line?
Well, there's well-established processes around the treatment of classified information to protect our national interest, to protect our national security. I mean, these are matters that apply under governments of both political persuasions, appropriately so. And I don't think that any media outlet credibly has challenged the proposition that we need to protect certain classified information in order to protect our national security and to protect, indeed, our national interest.